Well, it finished Chelsea 0, Tottenham Hotspur 0 at Stamford Bridge this afternoon. A hugely anticipated match going into the Premier League weekend. Kenny Cunningham. I thought it was kind of one of those very enthralling games where you're kind of sucked in and drawn in by the tactics. I've since seen a few comments on social media saying it was a dull match. Did you think so?
I thought you were overhyping it a touch during the commentary. I've got to be honest with you. I didn't want to drag you down. Doesn't take a lot to get you excited, Stephen, does it?
No, was it duller? Was it duller than
no,
I made
enjoyed
it?
the game. No, I'll buy into that a little bit. I enjoyed the game. There wasn't too many clear-cut chances both ends of the pitch. Wasn't too many chances full stop. And of course, a lot of people will switch off when that's the case. But no, it was an interesting game. Just a tactical setup from both teams. I was very impressed how Mourinho set up his team. I can see why he's actually gaining a bit of confidence. He's got that bit of a swagger back. And I think it's because of how his team's playing. I think he sees the DNA of the team now is getting close to what he wants. They have a real kind of physical presence to them now when you look at the team. That midfield three, Højbjerg today, Ndombele and Sissoko, powerful lads in there, can get around the pitch, kind of make tackles, can get up and down the pitch quickly. Good technical ability as well, Ndombele in particular. And then Højbjerg, they got that holding central midfield player, which he hasn't had probably since he's been at the football club. So I think he likes what he sees there. The defensive line, I thought was rock solid today. Young Joe Rodon, you mentioned before the game, thought he done absolutely great. Bit of pressure on his shoulders today. Thought he came in and stood up really well. And I think it's a Tottenham team you could say, well, one or two more personnel. The likes of Matt Doherty comes in right back. Gareth Bale, Alderweireld comes back in. His experience as centre half. It's a team that can actually get better as the season progresses. So I can understand Mourinho being a little bit of a smug attitude at the moment, because he's probably looking at his team thinking, do you know what, I like what I'm seeing here. Getting harder to be here, real physical approach. We look dangerous on the counter attack. We can maintain possession as well. They had some periods when they kept possession of the ball very quickly, so they're not going to one trick pony that's just going to sit on the edge of the penalty box and look to counter attack with kind of the pace of Son, Bale and Bergwijn in particular. So yeah, I think Mourinho will be really pleased with what he saw today. Maybe he felt as if they could have snatched it late on. The opportunity presented itself, possibly the last kick of the game. The Celso took the wrong option on the edge of the box. But in reality, I don't think either team deserved to win. Done enough to win the game today. A draw was absolutely a fair reflection of the game.
It's funny because we know Jose Mourinho, even from when he came into the Premier League first with Chelsea, his big thing was he wanted to have, say, 22, 23 players, 2 players for each position on the field. He seems to have that now. They're playing very well. As you mentioned, Højbjerg seems to be really key to how they defend. They've got players working back. The players all seem to be behind him. Son, Kane, they seem to like Mourinho. They're behind everything that he's doing. Now, before the Premier League started, and unsurprisingly, nobody really had them in as their choice for Premier League winners. Now, we're 10 games in. There's a bit of shape on the table now. I'm not asking you to predict will Spurs win the title, but do you think now they are realistic challengers?
I'll answer that. That's not a problem for me, Stephen. That's why I'm paid the big bucks, so you keep telling me. No, it's far too early in the season to be... I don't think Spurs will win the title. That's an easy thing for me to say.
And they probably go in the conversation more than they would have been before
absolutely.
the season.
I think the interesting one is, I've been asked this before actually, will they actually challenge for the title? I think it's too early in the season to be having that conversation. Yeah. I think if I don't think Spurs will challenge for the title, and by that I mean when we get to the start of April, maybe half a dozen games before the end of the season, if Spurs are still in a position to challenge, then if they're top of the league or on the coattails, the first couple of teams above them, the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City, then absolutely, yeah, and they have a chance of winning it, then absolutely they'll be challenging. I don't think you'd say because they're top of the table at the end of November, they're challenging for the title. I think that's far too soon. But you're absolutely right. I think the nature of the season that we're having, the fact that Liverpool have got their issues, particularly in terms of injuries to key personnel, Van Dijk and Gomez in particular. Manchester City looking a little bit out of sorts. I know they got a good result yesterday, but you feel as if they haven't been quite at it. So I can understand the likes of Chelsea and Tottenham in particular are getting just a little bit of sense of, oh, hold on, just an opportunity just may present itself this season for one of those two teams in particular to make a charge and steal a Premiership title. We've seen it with Leicester some years ago when the so-called bigger teams have tripped up a little bit over the course of the season of league points, and Leicester were good enough to take advantage on that particular occasion So that opportunity may present itself. And you're probably right, of the teams we've seen already, probably Spurs and Chelsea are the teams I think best equipped to put a challenge together. I wouldn't rule out Manchester United. Again, it's too early in the season. I think they potentially, in terms of quality of the squad, in terms of attacking quality in the team, potentially signings in the transfer window, you could make an argument maybe for Manchester United inching towards the top four. But I think it'd be, for Manchester United to get themselves involved, it really would need the top two to really hemorrhage a huge amount of points. I don't think that'll happen. I think Liverpool will just keep chugging away. Manchester City, I'd expect a reaction. I expect them to come good, particularly second half of the season. So really, I think it's probably Spurs and Chelsea up the chasing pack. You could kind of probably make an argument even second half of the season of chasing down those top two. But Spurs are the ones who really who've actually surprised me in terms of the how much the improvements that they've made, just not only in terms of personnel but in terms of the playing style. They really impressed me today, that performance.
Looking at Chelsea, and for all the attacking talent they've brought in, the likes of Ziyech, the likes of, Pulisic is already there, but Timo Werner was brought in, Kai Havertz was brought in. They brought in some really top quality attacking talent. Now I know you had to bring Pulisic off the bench because he was injured the last 5 games. Havertz has had his issues as well, so there's been problems there. But look, they played, Tottenham saw off Manchester City, beat them 2 goals to the last season, or last weekend. Chelsea have played Manchester United. They've played against Tottenham Hotspur, 2 of the big clubs, and they failed to score against them. That's a bit of a concern for Chelsea supporters.
Yeah, maybe so, but I wouldn't judge them too much off the back of today's performance. There was a big drop off today. I was actually very disappointed with Chelsea's attacking play today. A number of their forward players just off colour. Ziyech, who's been outstanding since he came to the club, nowhere near the levels he set himself today. Tammy Abraham's on the periphery of the game today. Some good things, some bad things as well. A little bit sloppy. Werner was in and out of the game, couldn't really impact the game. Kovacic, central midfield, again didn't really have much of a say as an attacking threat. So we know Chelsea are better than what they showed today. I think it's a fair point what they're up against today in terms of the Tottenham defensive shape. They really put it up to them, didn't give them those little spaces to play, those little combinations play. Maybe that other teams have done that. The defensive shape from Tottenham today was absolutely fantastic. I thought just didn't have the space, suffocated those Chelsea forwards to a large extent. But you're right, Chelsea are going to have to deal with that as the season progresses. You're going to have to find a way to get through that kind of blanket defence, and they weren't good enough today. But what I would say about Chelsea, I think they can improve off the bench. Pulisic, for me, definitely takes them to another level when he comes onto the pitch. And Havertz as well. I know he's had a slow burn in terms of his Chelsea career as well, but he's a really creative player as well who can operate kind of centrally just off the front, and he's got goals and assists in him as well. So I actually think there's more to come from Chelsea as an attacking threat as the season goes on, and they look as if defensively, they've got a nice little cohesive unit down back there. I don't think it's perfect, don't get me wrong. I think Kurt Zouma still has a few mistakes in him. Chilwell, very productive going forward and will do as the season goes on. But I still have some questions about him defensively. So it's not perfect. And that's why I wouldn't be banking on Chelsea or Tottenham winning the title if I had to put money on this table. I still look to Liverpool and Manchester City to wrestle it out come the end of the season. But I can understand why some of the Tottenham supporters and Chelsea supporters are getting a little bit excited because of the improvement that we've seen, certainly from both those sides since the start of the season.
2 quick ones before I let you go, Kenny. Just to ask you, obviously Manchester United played today. We watched a bit of that game beforehand, and we saw Edinson Cavani come in there and score the 2 goals to win that match against Southampton. They were 2-0 down. Just in general, it strikes me, Cavani, it's almost like one of those Alex Ferguson signings when he got Van Persie in that time, or Cantona when they won that time. He's got the makings of one of those kind of players that can come in and can turn United into one of those teams that challenge for trophies. And those 2 goals, we were talking before the game or before our own game this afternoon, how he's just got that pure striking quality, hasn't he? He's just such an experienced player to come in there, and he could be huge for United this season. Yeah, absolutely. Looks like one of those players who has the personality to deal with coming to a club like Manchester United, not overawed by, actually embraces the challenge. I've always been a huge fan of Cavani. Back to his Napoli days, I absolutely loved him. Was devastated when he signed for PSG. For me, he was good enough at that time to play in some of the great sides around Europe. But I'd love to have seen him come to England at that particular time. Could have played in any team, Manchester United, Liverpool, Manchester City. For me, he was that good. And such a great team player. Work rate is absolutely phenomenal.
But that shouldn't disguise the fact, Stephen, he's a very clever operator. The quality of his runs in and around the penalty box are absolutely fantastic. And if Manchester United supporters or supporters in general didn't realise it, the game against Istanbul midweek was evidence to that. The way he played that central striking role in a 3, his link-up play with Fernandes, Martial and Rashford that night was an absolute joy to watch. His decision-making, laying it off first time when he had to, quality of his runs down the side of opposition defenders, timing his runs into box, near post, back post. I really thought he actually elevated the whole Manchester United attacking performance. And he's the type of player, I think the younger players like Rashford and Martial, they love playing with, because they can loan him the ball, he'll keep it and he'll find them, he'll play them in, he'll make some great runs, he'll take players away, he'll make space for other players. He's a fantastic centre forward. I've loved him to death since he broke onto the scene. And I was surprised he didn't play today. I was amazed he didn't play off the back of that performance. I was thinking, wow, he's got to start now. He's got to start now centrally, and you take your pick who plays either side of him, Martial, Rashford or Greenwood. Fernandes, we know, plays in that area just in behind. So very surprised not to see him on the pitch today. I thought, again, that diamond formation didn't suit Manchester United against Southampton. But second half, they kind of rectified it a little bit and got him on centrally. And he was the spark that brought Manchester United back into the game. He's got to be the way forward for me. Whichever way you play, they ended up playing almost 4-4-2 today, Manchester United. I don't think that's the right shape. I'd love to see him go back to their orthodox 4-3-3 formation. I think that's the formation that suits them best. But Cavani down the centre of the pitch, flanked by whoever you want, for me is the way forward for Manchester United. And he gave an indication that again, second half today, the impact that he made.
Just if I ask you, Kenny, there's been a lot of talk obviously around Jurgen Klopp's comments yesterday. He had that set to with Des Kelly from BT Sport. I just want
bloody interviewer, Stephen. You should be ashamed of yourself, antagonising managers like that.
He was well prepared, Des Kelly, so all credit to him. But the one thing I want to come at it from a different angle, okay? Now, there's been a lot of focus on the times of the match being played, all that kind of stuff. But look, there's two things. I think I actually think there was a bit of Mourinho and a bit of Alex Ferguson in what Klopp did yesterday. From a Mourinho point of view, he's kind of distracted everybody from the performance of his team and dropping those 2 points in a match they really should have won. And perhaps he should have brought Mane on a bit sooner, or probably started Mane. Perhaps he should have left Salah on a bit longer. I don't know, but he's distracted that people from having that conversation. The other thing as well is, Kenny, and you'll be able to give us a bit more on this. If you're a Liverpool player in the dressing room and you're up against it, a lot of your teammates are injured, you're trying to fight to defend your title, and you see your manager going out there and fighting for you like that against the media, against the tournament organisers, that must be huge for the players. Like that's the kind of thing like Ferguson would have done back in his heyday with Manchester United, and that really builds morale. And in a time when Liverpool are struggling to get players fit, this will give them a real boost to see their manager out there fighting for them. Like
right. That. Now, I understand the argument that you've made, but I totally disagree with it.
Okay.
I'd be exactly the opposite. I'd want to see the exact opposite from my manager in front of the cameras. Now, there's a lot of talk prior to going into the game, a lot of talk from Klopp in terms of the fixture congestion, injuries to key personnel, etc., etc., etc. For me as a player, I don't want to hear that. I was never in that environment, that winning environment, like championship winning team, etc. So I understand that. But generally speaking, for being in the dressing room, I never like to hear that kind of negativity come from my manager. There might be some truth to what he's saying, but I don't want to hear that. I'd rather he box that off and put it to the side and be a little bit more positive in terms of his outlook. Rather than saying all of these bloody games we got coming up, I'd rather hear him say, well, let's embrace it. Yeah, the games can't come quick enough. We can't wait. This is the position that we want to be in. Big games coming in thick and fast. I trust the players. Yes, we have injuries, but you know what? I'm not worried because we've got some great players waiting to come into the team. We're ready for the challenge. That's what I want to hear, that kind of positivity exuding from the manager. So I flip it the other way. And even after the game, I understand he had some reasonable points to make, but it was the tone of the interview after, which really, I was actually cringing a little bit listening to him. And again, as a player, it's exactly what I wouldn't have wanted to have heard from the manager. I just thought came across like very sarcastic, condescending. And I don't think it would have a huge effect on the dressing room. That's a battle-hardened Liverpool dressing room, experienced players, serial winners. I'm not going to say it's had a negative effect on the dressing room, but I think the effect that it has is on the other teams, the chase and pack, the likes of Manchester City, Chelsea, Tottenham, their managers and players, when they listen to Klopp react like that pre-match and post-match, for me, that gives them a little bit of encouragement, as if to say, "Oh, Klopp, he's rattled a little bit. He's, you know what I mean? He's taking the bait there. He looks unhappy. You know, he's having a blast there." That for me, as an opposition player and manager, would give me a little bit of encouragement. So that's why I'm saying I'd actually like to see the totally opposite approach from Klopp, because I think the reaction from the Liverpool players since the setbacks, the injuries to Van Dijk and Gomez has been great. Yeah. I think they've really showed that kind of collective strength which they have, that kind of winning mentality. They've all come together and kind of ploughed on regardless. The results have been very good since those injuries. You know what I mean? So no need for me for the managers to be out there front and centre and bemoaning the fact that they have to play so many games, bemoaning the fact that he's picking up a few more injuries, bemoaning the fact that he can't use 5 substitutions. Just basically stop moaning. Stop moaning and start giving your players a lot more credit and be a lot more positive and put out a lot more positive spin, not only to your players who will be watching, but to the general public in general.
Great stuff. Thanks, Kenny. Have you picked one, Limerick or Limerick or Waterford, yeah, for the All-Ireland final?
I'm sticking with Waterford. After that, I didn't see the game today, thanks to you lot. Yeah. But that second half performance from Waterford last night literally had me. I was engrossed. Had massive buy-in for me. So brilliant. I'm going to no Waterford connections, obviously, but might gone down caravan down there back in the day. Sure, that was sure. Wexford. No, I don't think we made it past Wexford.
Joe, into Waterford. Delighted anyway to hear that. Thanks very much, Kenny.